Hi, I'm Lou, and that's John.
Listen to this guy.
A lot of you were on the Zoom and you were doing the following, okay? Looking at your mail, sending texts to each other about what an asshole the other person is, okay? Not paying attention, not reading your stuff, and if you don't think that slows down efficiency, creativity, creates rudeness and stuff, it does, okay? And when I found out that people are doing that, you don't do that in my meetings. You go to meet with me, you got my attention, you got my focus. I don't bring my goddamn phone. I'm not sending texts to people, okay? It simply doesn't work. And it doesn't work for creativity. It slows down decision making. And don't give me the shit that work from home Friday works. I call a lot of people on Friday. They're not a goddamn person you get a hold of. But here are the problems, okay? And they are substantial, okay? Which is the young generation is being damaged by this. That means they may or may not be on your particular staff, but they are being left behind. They're being left behind socially, ideas, meeting people. In fact, my guess is most of you live in communities a hell of a lot less diverse than this room. Every area should be looking to be 10% more efficient. If I was running a department of 100 people, I guarantee you, if I wanted to, I could run it with 90 and be more efficient. I guarantee you. I could do it in my sleep. And the notion, these bureaucracies, I need more people, I can't get it done. No, because you're filling out requests that don't need to be done. Your people are going to meetings they don't need to go to. Someone told me to approve some of his wealth management that they had to go to 14 committees. I am dying to get the name of the 14 committees. And I feel like firing 14 chairmen of committees. I can't stand it anymore. Now, you have a choice. You don't have to work at JP Morgan. So the people of you who don't want to work at the company, that's fine with me. I'm not mad at you. Don't be mad at me. It's a free country. You can walk with your feet, but this company is going to set our own standards and do it our own way. And I've had it with this kind of stuff. And, I come in, I've been working 7 days a week since COVID. And I come in and where's everybody else? But they're here and there and the Zooms don't show up. And people say they didn't get stuff. So that's not how you run a great company. We didn't build this great company by doing that, by doing the same semi-disease shit that everybody else does.
Oh my.
Wow.
So that was Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan. And this is IT SPARCast Deep Dive. I'm your host, John Barker.
I'm your host, Lou Schmidt. Let's dig deeper.
IT SPARCast Deep Dive is a venture into a topic that we feel is important, with insights, opinions, and a little sarcasm from two experts, each with over 20 years of experience, either in IT or working for IT vendors.
Remote work is a topic we care very much about because really the whole concept of remote work grew out of our IT experience. This is not something new if you're in IT. This started over 20 years ago, but we're still having problems. And we think that that's not okay. So we dig deeper.
This is our 10th episode where we talk about the remote work versus RTO debate. And this episode is a standalone episode, so you don't need to watch the previous 9 episodes. But if you do want to watch those, we will put a link in the show notes. If you're on YouTube, there will be a link above Lou's head right now, and you'll be able to go and click on that and go watch those if you so desire.
So yeah, please do. I think we should dive right into this.
Yeah, let's just go through and what Jamie Dimon here was going through. And, we've got a few bullet points that we want to talk through. The first one is just his general stance and attitude and the swearing. Obviously, he was very upset and emotional. So something had just happened. Somebody had made a comment, or he couldn't get a hold of somebody, or he got some financial results. There was something that triggered him, right? Or that's how he operates day in and day out, which that's a red flag if any CEO is operating like that on a regular basis. But, my mind is decisions like, do you force a return to office mandate, or do you allow remote work, or any other significant change in policy can't be done emotionally. It's got to be done pragmatically. You got to detach yourself emotionally and look at the numbers and then investigate why certain things are happening. Why, if finances are taking a downturn, why? If efficiency is down. Why? Don't just knee-jerk reaction to remote work is the culprit.
And I have to say, leading off in this discussion, my overall, so we've listened to this more than once.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of points we want to talk about, but after having a couple nuanced listen throughs, most of what he's addressing are not remote work problems.
Absolutely.
They're management problems. He's got a management problem.
We had a 2-part series a few episodes back on the deep dives where we actually specifically talked about how to manage remotely. And if you are trying to manage your remote workers the same way that you have managed your on-site workers in the past, it's not going to work. And we're seeing in this, and we'll get into this, that there are challenges that he's trying to address and that he's upset about that have zero to do with remote work. And we will be getting into that.
And we will be. One other point I think we should absolutely bring up here that we discussed before is that in what generation are these people operating? Because the one problem with a CEO, look, we come out of the information bucket. We've handheld CEOs through technology all the frickin' time. All right. You do not go to a CEO for advice on how to implement technology. You just don't. Now, you do go to them for profit. You do go to them for business strategy. You go to them for management techniques. I mean, they're CEOs for a reason. But optimizing a new management change, especially with somebody, so Jamie is older than both of us, and we're not exactly spring chickens. That's a challenge.
It is. And I want to address what I felt was the biggest red flag in that entire rant, which was the fact that he said that he calls people on a Friday afternoon and they have work from home Fridays and nobody answers his call and nobody gets back to him. What? Really? You're the CEO of JP Morgan and people under your charge are not getting back to you?
You need to
Come on.
You need to be firing people who don't get back to you.
There's a cultural problem here. There is a lack of respect for the CEO. Lou and I were talking pre-show. I had a CEO 2 years ago call me at 10 o'clock at night on a Wednesday. And I picked up the phone. Now, his number was in my contact list, so I knew it was him. But you bet your ass I'm going to pick up the phone and answer that. Now, if he hadn't been in my contact list and it had been an unknown number, I might not have answered it, but I would have listened to the voicemail or he would have texted me or something. And then I would have gotten back to him immediately.
I can't even imagine not taking a call from your CEO or even your manager, for God's sakes.
And if I had been indisposed, if I had been asleep or, inebriated or whatever it was where I was not going to be answering the phone call, then I would have, first thing in the morning, I would have woke up, I would have texted him and I said, hey, I'm sorry I missed your call. I'm available now. What can I do for you? And then done that. If I had completely ghosted that CEO, I should have been fired. That's just straight up. A CEO runs the company. He doesn't have time to screw around. So there is a serious cultural problem going on at JP Morgan if people are ghosting the CEO on a Friday.
That has nothing to do with remote work policies.
Zero to do with remote work policy.
Let's talk a little bit more of his harsh critique. So he called on employees for multitasking during virtual meetings, accusing them of checking emails, texting, and not paying attention. Look, dude, I know you're a CEO, but you haven't been to the average meeting lately. This is a problem we've been dealing with since Wi-Fi. When Wi-Fi came into large corporations, and I was right on the cutting edge of that.
Yeah.
Right. We were one of the company I was working for at the time. It's one of the first ones to widely deploy Wi-Fi across the entire organization. Yes, it causes problems. But the other thing you need to think about is if people are wandering off and checking mails and telling each other this guy's a dork, why are they in the meeting?
Right. So this is a classic example of a situation where, in my opinion, if I were checking my email or not fully engaged in a meeting, then I would see this as yet another meeting that could have been an email. Why am I here? Why am I supposed to be actively participating in something that I don't care about? Why is this the fifth meeting in a row where I didn't even get a bio break between them because I've been in 5 hours of meetings back to back to back? That is something that needs to be addressed. And whether it's in person and I'm running from meeting room to meeting room to meeting room, or I'm bouncing from Zoom to Zoom to Zoom, that doesn't really matter.
Not a bit.
People need to be trained on, does this need to be a meeting or could this be an email? That is one of the biggest problems in time suck going on in corporate culture today.
And really, he's talking about, he emphasized this behavior damages efficiency, creativity, and decision-making with organizations. We agree.
Yeah.
We agree with that. He's spot on correct. The thing is, where you're sitting doesn't mean you act this way. Company culture is why you act this way.
I can show up in the office and check my fantasy football team just as easily as I can do it remote, right? And so the fact that I'm in the office has nothing to do with how efficient I'm going to be.
If I'm committed to getting your task done and the task is well defined, doesn't matter where I'm standing.
Yeah.
I'm going to work hard. And, so this comes to sort of the in-person mentality that we're seeing in a lot of these return to office. Now, if you've watched our previous stuff, you see that John and I call this stuff out as sort of silent firing, which is really what it is.
Yeah.
Right. As soon as the economy starts to ramp back up again, you're going to see a lot more remote work. Look, not only did the horse leave the barn and you're trying to close the door, the damn barn burned down. We all went through COVID. IT's been dealing with this for 20 freaking years. You've tried to outsource us to India. Then you've tried to insource us. Then you try to go 24 hours with us. We are on the bleeding edge of all of this crap. We've already seen this. We have the shirts.
I feel that there are two main drivers for the current trend of return to office mandates. One is quiet firing, and that's because we need to reduce staff and we don't want to publicly issue layoffs. We don't want to be in the press saying that we've done yet another layoff. And oh, by the way, I don't want to pay for the severance that goes along with those layoffs, right? So there's cost-cutting measures there. The other reason is that you have a CEO or leadership in general that just likes being in the office and they want people around them, or they have purchased their buildings. We talked about Apple, purchasing building the spaceship, and they want that building full because they're paying for the mortgage and the building of it, and they don't want to see that go to waste. And I get the thinking there, but you got to come up with something more creative than that. You can't just say we're going to force everybody back into the office because we own office space, or we want to force everybody back in the office because I'm lonely, right? That's not legit.
Have you ever thought about making the office such an awesome place to be that people want to be there?
Yeah.
It's like it used to be, the boundary for this was, well, the office has better bandwidth and a snack bar and free coffee, right? Okay, free coffee went away. I got more bandwidth to myself here than any of your freaking offices. Well, I have a much better work setup here than any cubicle I've ever been in.
I'm sitting in the biggest office I've ever worked in.
And I'm about to build a bigger one.
Right. And we do understand that not everybody has that luxury. Some people work from the kitchen table. We get that. But my point is that it should be a choice, and again, we're not saying that you never, ever have to be in an office. There are plenty of reasons for that. And we're going to do an episode specifically on the reasons to come in and when those are actually necessary, even for the information workers that can work remotely most of the time. But that's, any information worker should be able to work remotely as long as they have the proper management. Again, I point back to the previous episodes where we talked about that. Now, I want to address a point he made about younger workers. So Jamie said that he felt that this remote culture was damaging to younger workers. Now, I want to first give him credit for at least thinking about the younger workers. And, we looked it up, and Jamie's in his mid-60s. So he's got a few years on both Lou and me. And it is difficult to connect with people that are that much younger than yourselves. So in my case, having somebody working for you that might be 30 years younger than you, or in Jamie's case, people that are 40 years younger than him, then that can be a really difficult cultural shift. So I appreciate that he's thinking about it. That being said, when the pandemic hit, the folks that dealt with it the best were the younger millennials and the elder Gen Z workers that were already digital natives. They're the ones that already knew they were already using Discord and Signal and WhatsApp and all these other tools to communicate with their friends and have video conferences with their buddies, setting it up while they're playing Xbox or whatever that they were doing. This was just natural for them, right? For the rest of us, it was a little bit of more of a shift. I mean, some of us were much more used to the remote work, but the being stuck at home was a weird shift for some of us. But we got through it and dealt with it.
The thing is, a big change happened 20 years ago, and it happened all about and Jamie probably doesn't even recognize it because he's far along in his career. The reason we're so keen on it is we lived it, and that is cell phones, VPN, laptop. All right. That has never existed before. It used to be a big deal to have a phone on your desk. I can remember a time it was a big deal when you had your own desktop computer.
Yeah.
Now, so that is the mindset that people who are pushing RTO, well, it's a big deal. No, to Gen Z, it's day to day. It's how everything is. They've never been without it. You have to meet them halfway. Now, I agree that there are absolutely needs to mentor younger workers and bring them in. You have to be much higher touch. And we cover this. We've done this.
We did.
And we will do it again. So there's a thing I'd like to bring up, John, and that is Wall Street Journal published an article on this, talking about this, how it leaked out. One of the things that they keyed on was, okay, now Jamie's got to hunt down a leaker. This wouldn't have happened if it wasn't a Zoom meeting. To which I say, yeah, I hit a record button on my phone, drop it into my pocket, I get all the audio, right? That ain't going to happen. There's too many ways to get this stuff out. But I've made a couple of comments in here, and really the attitude that I'm seeing in the comments, I can only classify as crabs in a bucket, right? The whole idea is, I suffered through this, so you have to suffer too.
Yeah.
That's not a good reason.
Well, and that was another interesting point that we didn't touch on, of something that Jamie said, which is, I've been working 7 days a week since the pandemic. Well, dude, you're a CEO that makes millions of dollars a year. Well, I don't know what his salary is, but
hold on, I'm going to look it up. How much?
Lou looks it up. I chat through this, but a large financial organization like JP Morgan, the CEO's got to be making a minimum $10 million a year, probably more than that. So you better be working your butt off to make sure that company is moving forward. What do you got, Lou?
$39 million.
$39 million a year.
I can hire a lot of care for $39 million to help take care of this thing that I'm not doing because I'm in the office 7 days a week.
Right. $39 million buys a lot of help. So, but at the end of the day, like, I've seen a lot of CEOs that have this mentality. I'm working this hard, so all of you should be working this hard as well. And that's just the wrong way to look at it. I was at a startup, and I was one of the co-founders, and I was working super hard. I probably didn't work as hard as the CEO, who had a bigger stake in the company than I did. I owned about 10%. He owned about 30%. And I know that the people working underneath me were definitely not working as hard as I was or as he was, but we couldn't expect them to, because they all maybe had a 0.5 or 0.1% stakehold in the company, and they were just getting paid an average salary. You can't expect them to be, putting in long hours every weekend and just burning the midnight oil all the time and burning themselves out the way he was. That's just not something you can do. And I guarantee you, Jamie was thinking that everybody should be just, busting hard, making sure everything's happening the same way he's doing it. But they're not making $39 million a year.
Oh, it gets even more interesting when you ponder the macro. Look, folks, we just went through pretty nasty pandemic. I don't think there's anybody on watching this video that didn't know somebody who died or have heard a story from somebody close to them. When stuff like this happens, you start thinking, if I'm going to die tomorrow, do I really want to work 7 days a week?
Right.
Especially when they're going to lay you off next week anyway, if the numbers are bad.
Yeah, there's an old adage of, nobody on their deathbed ever said, I wish I worked harder, versus spent more time with my kids or whatever. So, yeah. So, I mean, anyway, so I feel like that Jamie here really just is got a misguided emotional reaction here, and maybe he'll pull back. Maybe once he calms down a bit. But I do think that there's a significant cultural issue that is probably his fault. Just making a guess, if people aren't calling him back, there's a lack of respect. If people are leaking audio of him going on a rant, it's probably because it's not the first time he's been on a rant, and that they want people to know what's going on inside. That's just my guess from having worked for CEOs that go on rants like that. If it happens once, if you have a relatively calm, good, strong leadership style CEO that has a moment, you're not going to leak that audio.
Plus,
right?
We're all human, right?
We're all human. We're all allowed to have a bad day. But if you have a CEO that's constantly, just berating people and swearing in every meeting, that's the time when you start recording it and leaking it out to the press.
Holy crap. What else is going on here?
100%.
So
I'm going to go ahead and I want to move on a little bit. I want to take this to the greater picture of the return to office mandates. And we want to talk about some of the folks that are trying to do this. And I want to talk about Amazon. And we've talked about Andy Jassy and Amazon's return to office mandate multiple times, but some interesting things have come out. And Lou found an article from Seattle Times. And what we found was that the return to office mandates also are coming along with a lot of cost saving measures, and that what Amazon's doing with their robotics are much farther ahead than most of us had realized. And we've known for a long time, and Lou's actually seen them, the robots running in the warehouse are really advanced and really good at what they're doing. But they're so good that in their Shreveport, Louisiana facility, which is their newest and their next gen facility, they're seeing a 25% reduction in fulfillment costs at peak times compared to their previous generation facilities. What are fulfillment costs? Humans. So they're seeing that their robots are able to reduce the human touch 25%. So yeah, if I were Amazon, I would be trying to figure out a way to reduce my workforce in a quiet way so I could put in more robots in the warehouse. And oh, by the way, who's controlling the robots, right? The robots are being controlled by code that's being written by somebody that's not in the warehouse. Even if they're in the office, they're not in that office. So that's effectively the same as being a remote worker. So Amazon's actually proving the point, but that you can work remotely, because honestly, they're not. The Amazon doesn't just have one location. They've got offices and warehouses all over the planet.
How many people do they have? You looked this up last time. I remember
1.5 million employees.
That's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people.
What else is happening at this time too, though, right, John? AI is coming in.
AI
what
is coming
AI
in.
going to do? It's going to take a lot of these little tasks, these little cogs right now, where you're having to jam people into these cogs to keep them running. That's going to be gradually going away. And Amazon knows this.
Yeah, and AI and robotics are going obviously hand in hand. And there's a video that came out recently from Tesla showing their cars coming off the assembly line and then driving themselves to the storage facility across the campus, and no human ever touching them. And they just automatically do that, right? And Lou's got 2 Teslas, and he can go do 6 hours without touching a steering wheel. This stuff is all happening, and we're just at the beginning, right? This is the worst it's ever going to be as far as the ability of AI and robotics to operate. It's only going to get better from here. And by the way, that's probably not good for those warehouse workers at Amazon in the short term. It'll be good once they get training and get an elevated job, because that's what happens when lower end jobs get displaced, higher end jobs get opened up. But if you're at a company that is initiating strict return to office mandates, 5 days a week in the office, or you're fired, or you need to quit, you should probably evaluate whether you want to continue working there. And if you're a top performer, you especially should be evaluating whether you want to work there, because why would you have to do that if you can go get the same pay at another company that's going to give you more flexibility And then maybe you give them more loyalty because of the flexibility and control that you have over your own life.
And in our experience, once again, I came back. I was reading the comments on the Wall Street Journal article. I basically pointed out, look, IT has been successfully doing this for 20 years.
Yeah.
20 years we've been doing this, and your stuff still works. What are we doing? What are you doing as an IT professional? If you are an IT professional watching us, how are you taking that knowledge and bringing it to your colleagues? This is a huge advantage we have. Yeah. We understand how to do this.
There are two key aspects to the success of remote work, and we've touched on this in almost every episode of Deep Dive that we've done for the last 10 episodes, which is proper technology from IT that we provide, the collaboration tools that are necessary, and maybe we need to do more than we're doing today. We provide the tools to get access and secure access to all the content. Things like zero trust is really, really important.
We have work to do there. We know that.
And then proper middle level management. So the people that are managing the workers, you cannot be a micromanager, but you cannot be an absentee manager. These are key aspects. I actually met with somebody earlier this morning, and she was talking about her manager, who's a great contributor, and he works hard and he has really great ideas, but he's a new manager and he's an absentee manager, and he lives in a different country, and she's feeling lost. And so this is something that is a real problem, and that she's, she may not be long for that organization if she keeps feeling lost and not given the attention that she needs. So
she's
anyway,
a superstar. We've seen her do amazing things, but some of your employees need more touch. Some of your employees need less touch. And as a manager, you should understand that. Most of the reason, in my opinion, that remote work fails is managers do not place reasonable expectations and goals on the folks that are doing the work.
Right.
They're just like, figure it out.
Right. It's either they put too much on you and they expect you to work extra hours because you're not commuting in, or they give you unclear objectives and expect you to figure it out. Right. Absolutely.
Watch out for stuff like this. This is a big indicator. It's time to look for a new job.
100%. So just be aware and take care of yourself. So that is going to cover this episode. We want to hear from you. Do you feel like we're on the right track here with our take on remote work? Or are we completely off? Or do you feel that being in the office is the only way to truly be efficient? We want to hear from you. Send email to feedback@itsparkcast.com. That's feedback at itsparkcast.com. Hit us up on X at itsparkcast, or hit us up on LinkedIn individually. We really do want to hear from you there. Make sure that you do hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications if you're on YouTube. That's going to help this channel grow. If you feel that you're getting strong information here, if this is helping you with your day-to-day job or in any other aspect, tell your friends and colleagues about us so that they can get the same great information as well. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.